The Cat Lady Named Arthur. Part 7. Arthur to Jenffer. By Jenffer J. Chapter 7. The Dance. Miss J, you can't just wear that to school, Jennifer hissed, grabbing the edge of the sequined blazer before it disappeared into the faculty closet. Miss J to the administration, paused mid-hanger swap, one eyebrow arched. The blazer in question was a relic from her college days, bedazzled with rainbow stitching that caught the fluorescent light like scattered glitter. It's Friday, she said, as if that explained everything. Jennifer's fingers twitched against the fabric. The hallway outside the staff room was already filling with students, their laughter seeping under the door. They'll know, she muttered, eyes darting to the clock. 5 minutes until homeroom. Her throat tightened. The last time someone wore something like this, the rumor mill had ground the poor math teacher into a resignation by spring break. Miss J snorted, tugging the blazer free. Let them. She shrugged it on, rolling her shoulders until the sequins settled. The movement sent a waft of her perfume, something citrus and unapologetic, into the air. Jennifer inhaled despite herself. Outside, the chatter swelled. A locker slammed. Someone yelled, "Yo, is that her?" Jennifer's pulse spiked. She grabbed Miss J's wrist, her grip too tight. "You're leaving next week," she whispered. "I'm not." The words tasted bitter. The dance was tomorrow, their last night before the school ends, and Jennifer had imagined it a dozen times, the dark gymnasium, the way Miss J's hand would slip into hers under the disco ball's fractured light. But now, with that blazer flashing like a damn beacon, it felt reckless. Miss J turned, slow, deliberate. She didn't pull away. Instead, she leaned in until her breath warmed Jennifer's cheek. So? The sequins brushed Jennifer's collarbone, sharp and cool. They already suspect. A beat. The clock ticked. Then, right there in the doorway, with students passing behind them like ghosts through fogged glass, Miss J kissed her. Not deep, not desperate, just a press of lips, firm enough to linger. Jennifer's stomach dropped. The hallway erupted in whistles, a gasp, someone's gleeful, "Holy shit." Miss J pulled back first. Her thumb swiped Jennifer's lower lip, smudging her gloss. "There," she murmured. "Now they know." The blazer shimmered as she straightened, unbothered by the dozen phones now raised in their direction. Jennifer's ears roared. This wasn't how she'd pictured it, no slow dancing shadows, no stolen moment. Just fluorescent lights and the metallic tang of locker doors slamming shut. Yet Miss J's fingers stayed tangled with hers, tight as a promise. The hallway parted like a tide. Whispers slithered past lockers, asterisk, since when, asterisk, told you she was queer, asterisk, Jennifer's heels dug into the linoleum, but Miss J tugged her forward. Walk, she said, not a request. So Jennifer did. Past gawking freshmen, past the science teacher who coughed into his hand, past the principal's open door, her pulse hammered at the silhouette inside, but the office phone rang, and the moment shattered. Miss J's laugh was low, private. See? World didn't end. Jennifer's fingers twined tighter with hers. The blazer sequin scratched her palm. She should care. About the texts flooding group chats, about the way the basketball team leaned against the water fountain, smirking. But Miss J's thumb swept over her knuckles, slow circles that said "I'm here," and suddenly, the weight of it all, the transfer paperwork signed, the apartment lease up north, the way Miss J had packed her books last night like a woman erasing evidence, twisted into something reckless. She stopped mid-stride. Do it again. Miss J blinked. The hallway noise dimmed, phone still raised. What? Jennifer stepped closer, her shoes sticking slightly to the old linoleum. She could smell the cheap floral disinfectant the janitors used, mixed with the lingering sweat of gym class. Somewhere down the hall, a locker door squeaked open. "Kiss me again," she said, louder this time. Her voice didn't shake, that surprised her. Right here. Miss J's eyes flickered, just once, to the phone still pointed their way. Then she grinned, sharp as the sequins on her blazer. "You're gonna get me fired before my last damn day." But she didn't hesitate. Her hand slid up Jennifer's neck, fingers catching in the baby hairs at her nape, and pulled her in. This kiss wasn't like the first, no careful press, no testing the waters. Miss J's mouth was warm, insistent, tasting of mint gum and the black coffee she'd gulped between periods. Jennifer heard the gasps, the sudden burst of chatter, someone's exaggerated "oh my god." She didn't care. The blazer's scratchy lining brushed her wrists as she gripped Miss J's hips, pulling her closer until the hallway, the students, the school blurred into nothing. A whistle cut through the noise, low, appreciative. Jennifer recognized that tone. Basketball team. Miss J broke the kiss with a laugh against her lips. "Christ, Thompson," she called over Jennifer's shoulder, not even bothering to look. "Your free throw percentage is abysmal. Focus on that." The locker-lined walls seemed to vibrate with laughter. Jennifer's face burned, but Miss J's thumb was tracing her jawline, steady as a heartbeat. "Last day," she murmured, so quiet only Jennifer could hear. "Might as well burn it down." The principal's door creaked open. Jennifer didn't turn. She knew the click of those sensible heels anywhere. "Ms. J." The voice was ice-wrapped in administrative polish. "My office. Now." Miss J sighed, rolling her eyes skyward like she was counting to 10. But her fingers lingered on Jennifer's waist, squeezing once before she stepped back. The blazer's sequins winked under the fluorescence, daring anyone to look away. "Be right there," she called, breezy, as if discussing attendance forms. Then, to Jennifer, softer, "Dance starts at 7. I'll be the one in glitter." Jennifer watched her go, the way the hallway's chatter stuttered in her wake. Someone's phone camera flashed. Miss J didn't flinch. She adjusted the blazer's cuffs, asterisk rainbow stitching, God, so fucking obvious asterisk, and strolled into the principal's office like she owned the damn district. The door shut with a click. The hallway erupted. Jennifer's knees shook. She pressed her palms to her thighs, her skirts pleated sharp under her fingers. The bell rang, a shrill, oblivious alarm, and the crowd scattered, but the whispers stuck to the lockers like gum. Her phone buzzed, a screenshot of the kiss, already circulating in 3 group chats. Jennifer swiped it away. Her reflection in the science lab door was wide-eyed, lips still smudged. She wiped her mouth with the back of her hand. The gloss came away pink. At 7 p.m., the gymnasium doors groaned open. Miss J stepped through first, her silhouette backlit by the disco ball's fractured light. The rainbow dress clung to her curves, sequins catching every flicker of neon, electric blue, hot pink, acid green. It was too much. The slit rode up her thigh with every stride. Jennifer hovered behind her, gripping the strap of her purse like a lifeline. Her own dress, a compromise between prom and panic, digged into her ribs, the sweetheart neckline pushing her chest up like an offering. She'd never filled out a strapless bra like this before. The fabric itched. The music stuttered. A freshman DJ gaped from the booth, her headphones slipping. Across the gym, the basketball team's water bottles froze mid-sip. Miss J didn't slow. She carved a path through the staring crowd, her stilettos sinking into the crepe paper-strewn floor. Jennifer followed, her pulse hammering in her throat. Someone's phone flashed, asterisk again asterisk, but Miss J just tossed her hair, the curls bouncing against her bare shoulders. "Told you I'd wear glitter," she murmured, fingers finding Jennifer's wrist. Her nails were painted the same violent purple as the dress's hem. Jennifer swallowed. The gym smelled like sweat and the pine-scented cleaner they'd mopped with 20 minutes ago. Beneath that, something sugary, punch, maybe, or the icing on the half-eaten cupcakes abandoned near the bleachers. Her toes curled in her heels. Miss J's dress moved with her, the sequins whispering secrets against her hips. Jennifer's own dress felt like a straitjacket by comparison. "People are staring," she breathed. Miss J's laugh was a warm puff against her ear. "Honey, they've been staring since 3rd period. She tugged Jenffer forward, their steps sinking as they reached the center of the dance floor. The disco ball spun lazy fractals of light across Miss J's collarbones, dipping into the swell of her chest where the dress plunged. Jennifer's mouth went dry. She'd seen Miss J in cardigans buttoned to the throat, in shapeless blazers from the teachers' union fundraiser. This wasn't just a dress. It was a declaration. The bass thumped louder, some pop song Jenffer's students had begged the DJ to play. Miss J's hips swayed, her hands sliding down Jennifer's arms until their fingers tangled. "Relax," she murmured, pulling Jenffer flush against her. The sequins bit into Jennifer's palms, sharp and insistent. She could feel the exact moment the crowd's murmurs hit a crescendo, the music hiccuped, phones lifted like a swarm of fireflies, because the gym doors burst open with a slam. Principal Hendricks stood framed in the doorway, her sensible blazer wrinkled at the elbows, a crumpled pink slip clenched in her fist. The fluorescent hallway light cut across the dance floor, exposing every glittering speck of dust. Jenffer stiffened, her nails digging into Miss J's waist. "Shit," she breathed. But Miss J just laughed, low and throaty, her grip tightening. "Already quit, watch this," she whispered, and then she was spinning Jenffer out, the sudden movement sending her skirt flaring. Jenffer gasped, her back arching as Miss J dipped her, too deep, too fast her hair brushing the gym floor's sticky vinyl. The music stuttered. Hendricks' mouth opened, something about professional conduct, district policy, but Miss J didn't let Jenffer up. Instead, she leaned down, her curls a dark curtain around them, and kissed her. Hard. Jennifer's pulse exploded in her ears. The crowd roared, not just the usual catcalls, but a deafening wave of approval, phones flashing like paparazzi. Miss J's lips tasted of cherry chapstick and rebellion. Jennifer's hands flailed before finding purchase on the back of her neck, pulling her closer as Hendricks spluttered. The dip deepened. Jennifer's dress threatened to ride up her thighs, the gym's sticky floor pressing cold against her bare shoulders. Miss J's breath hitched, just once, before she hauled her upright with a grin. The sequins on her dress caught the light, throwing prismatic shards across Hendricks' furious face. "Ms. J," the principal hissed, brandishing the pink slip like a dagger. Miss J flicked it aside with 2 fingers. "We are leaving to go back to me dad logging camp." Jennifer's lungs burned. The crowd's cheers muffled Hendricks' next words, but Miss J was already turning, her stilettos crushing discarded cupcake wrappers as she dragged Jenffer toward the exit. The disco ball spun, dizzying. Someone's phone flashed, again, capturing Miss J's smirk, the way her thumb brushed Jennifer's pulse point. "Our day is over," she announced, loud enough for the bleachers to hear. "No more school." The gym door swung shut behind them, cutting off Hendricks' screech about permanent records. Outside, the parking lot asphalt still radiated summer heat. Jennifer's heels wobbled on the uneven concrete. Miss J's dress glowed under the sodium lights, the sequins bleeding into the orange haze. 12th grade in 1 year? Jenffer blurted, her voice cracking. She'd seen the pamphlets in Miss J's apartment, Northern Logging Company, seasonal work and kid cramp in the summer but the reality of it hit now. The sawdust, the freezing trailers, the way Miss J had joked about teaching her to split logs in lace panties. Jennifer's stomach lurched. "You're serious?" Miss J lit a cigarette, the flame trembling in her cupped hand. "Dad's camp needs a cook." She exhaled smoke toward the stars. "You can grade papers by the generator light." Her smirk faltered when Jenffer didn't laugh. The cigarette tip glowed brighter. "Or don't. Stay here. Finish senior year with the fuckers who filmed us like we're their goddamn Netflix subscription." Jennifer's heels sank into the gravel. The parking lot smelled of hot asphalt and the dumpster behind the gym, where prom committees past had dumped their wilted decorations. Somewhere, a car door slammed. Miss J's sequins caught the flickering lot light, purple, then black, then purple again. 12th grade in 1 year, Jenffer repeated, the words thick. She pictured the pamphlets again, accelerated learning, remote testing centers. The logging camp photo showed bearded men in plaid, not a single woman in sight. "Your dad knows I'm?" Miss J snorted, flicking ash. "You're my girlfriend?" She stepped closer, her stilettos crunching a discarded soda can. The cigarette smoke curled between them. "First one, yes. Second one?" Her grin was all teeth. "He thinks you're my roommate." Jennifer's stomach dropped. The parking lot lights buzzed overhead, attracting moths that batted against the glass. Roommate. The word tasted cheap, like the vinyl of her dress digging into her ribs. She'd spent 4 months kissing Miss J in supply closets, memorizing the way her hands shook when she graded papers at 2 a.m., only to be introduced as a roommate? Her throat tightened. The sequins on Miss J's dress winked mockingly. Miss J took another drag, her cigarette's ember flaring. "Relax," she muttered, smoke curling from her lips. "Dad's got the emotional range of a chainsaw. He'll buy it." The ash dropped, sizzling faintly on the asphalt. Somewhere in the dark, a car engine coughed to life. Jennifer's heels wobbled. She pictured the logging camp brochures again, the grainy photos of bunkhouses, the way Miss J had circled shared quarters in red pen. Her fingers twitched. "And when he doesn't," she whispered. Miss J exhaled hard. The cigarette hit the ground, crushed under her stiletto in a twist of sparks. Then she was crowding Jennifer against the hood of her rusted-out Civic, fingers digging into the soft flesh above her hip bones. Then, she murmured, lips brushing Jennifer's ear, "We'll be the lesbians who chop wood better than the men." The kiss was rough, all teeth and nicotine. Jennifer gasped into it, her hands flying to Miss J's shoulders. The sequins scratched her palms raw. Behind them, the gym doors burst open. A flood of students spilled into the parking lot, phones aloft like torches. Someone wolf whistled. Miss J didn't pull away. She licked into Jennifer's mouth, slow and filthy, until the catcalls turned to groans. "Fuck," Jennifer breathed, her back arching off the car hood. The Civic's antenna dug into her spine. Miss J's dress was a live wire against her, every sequin conducting the heat between them. The crowd's murmurs crescendoed, "holy shit, they're still going," but Jennifer barely heard them. Miss J's teeth scraped her lower lip, a sharp counterpoint to the hand sliding up her thigh. The parking lot asphalt radiated summer heat through her dress, the fabric sticking to her skin. Somewhere, Principal Hendricks shouted, but the words drowned in the rev of a motorcycle peeling out. Miss J's laugh vibrated against Jennifer's collarbone. "Told you," she murmured, thumb hooking under the strap of Jennifer's bra. World didn't end. Jennifer's breath hitched. The Civics had dented under her weight, the metal groaning. Miss J's dress was a kaleidoscope of pressure points, sequins imprinting on her palms, the slit riding higher with every shift of hips. A phone flashlight flickered across them, catching the sweat at Miss J's hairline. Jennifer's pulse stuttered. This wasn't the slow burn fantasy she'd imagined, no candlelight, no soft whispers. Just asphalt and the acrid tang of burnt rubber. Yet when Miss J nipped her earlobe, whispering logging camps got a lake. Naked swimming at midnight, Jennifer's knees buckled. The crowd surged closer. Someone's sneaker crunched a beer can. Miss J finally broke the kiss, panting, her lipstick smeared beyond repair. She swiped her thumb over Jennifer's cheek, streaking glitter from the disco ball that still clung to her skin. "Fuck 'em," she muttered, nodding toward the gawking students. Her sequined shoulder brushed Jennifer's as she straightened, the dress gaping where a strap had slipped. The principal's shadow loomed at the gym doors, but Miss J just flipped her hair back. "Pack light," she said, too loud. "Dad's bunkhouse doesn't have closets." Jennifer's breath came uneven. The Civic's hood was warm under her palms, the metal dented where she'd gripped it. She pictured the logging camp photos again, the axe handles leaning against a shed, the way Miss J had joked about teaching her to skin rabbits. Her pulse jumped. "What if I can't?" Miss J kissed her quiet. Not rough like before, but slow, her thumb tracing the hinge of Jennifer's jaw. The sequins whispered between them. We'll get married, she murmured against Jennifer's lips. Jennifer laughed, half hysterical, her fingers clutching Miss J's dress straps. Sure, she breathed. The parking lot smelled like gasoline and the cinnamon gum Miss J always chewed. I don't mind. She buried her face in Miss J's neck, inhaling the sweat-slick perfume there. Let's tell your mom and dad about this. The words tasted wild in her mouth. Miss J stiffened. Jennifer felt it, the hitch in her ribs, the way her fingers twitched against her back. The sequins dug into Jennifer's cheek. For a second, the parking lot noise faded, no more catcalls, no Principal Hendricks screeching about morality clauses. Just Miss J's ragged exhale against her temple. Mom's dead, she said finally, voice flat. Car crash sophomore year. Dad doesn't talk about it. Her grip tightened, blunt nails pressing crescents into Jennifer's skin. But yeah. We'll tell him. Jennifer swallowed. The Civics had creaked under them. Somewhere, a moth thudded against a buzzing light pole. She'd known about the logging camp, the dad who sent handwritten letters on yellow legal paper, but never this. Miss J's perfume clung to her, citrus and something darker, like the pine tar she'd mentioned once in passing. Jennifer pressed closer, her bare thighs sticking to the car's sun-baked metal. Okay, she whispered. Her thumb found the strap of Miss J's dress, tracing the sweat-damp seam. We'll tell them together. Miss J's laugh was a quiet puff against her collarbone. Christ, you're serious. Her fingers slid into Jennifer's hair, tugging gently until their foreheads touched. The sequins of her dress caught the parking lot's orange glow, casting fractured light across Jennifer's cheeks. Dad'll be pissed about the car first, she muttered. The Civics had indeed dented under their weight, the shape of Jennifer's spine pressed into the metal like a fossil. Jennifer traced the strap of Miss J's dress where it had slipped down her shoulder. The skin there was warm, salty with dried sweat. We'll say a moose did it, she whispered. The absurdity of it hit her then, talking marriage while perched on a busted car hood, their classmates' phones still flashing like paparazzi. Miss J's thumb brushed her lower lip, smearing glitter and leftover lipstick. Miss J snorted, her breath hot against Jennifer's temple. Dad'll ask why you weren't wearing orange in moose country. She shifted, her sequins scraping the Civic's dented hood. Somewhere near the gym doors, Principal Hendricks was herding gawking students back inside with the urgency of a sheepdog. Jennifer didn't look. She focused on the frayed thread at Miss J's dress strap, the way it unraveled toward the small of her back like a lifeline. We could invite him, Jennifer murmured. The idea unfurled slowly, a backyard ceremony with folding chairs, Miss J's dad in his oil-stained flannel, the scent of pine pitch clinging to his boots. Your dad, I mean. And, she hesitated. Miss J's fingers stilled in her hair. We could find your mom's people. If you wanted. Miss J exhaled sharply, her breath warm against Jennifer's throat. The parking lot light buzzed overhead, catching the sweat at her temples. For a heartbeat, the only sound was the distant thump of bass from the gym, some pop song fading into static. Then Miss J's thumb traced Jennifer's cheekbone, slow as a promise. Mom's sister lives in Thunder Bay, she said, voice rough. Sends me birthday cards with pressed wildflowers. Never opened them. Jennifer's fingers tightened around the unraveling strap of Miss J's dress. The sequins bit into her palm. She pictured the envelopes, yellowed at the edges, maybe, addressed in careful cursive. The kind of handwriting that would have smelled like lavender sachets and apologies. We could start there, she whispered. The Civic's dented hood groaned under them. Miss J's laugh was a sharp exhale against her neck. Sure. Hi Aunt Margot, I'm marrying my classmate. Her fingers flexed in Jennifer's hair, not quite pulling. The parking lot light flickered, casting their tangled shadows across the asphalt. Somewhere near the dumpster, a raccoon rustled through prom debris. Jennifer pressed closer, her bare thighs sticking to the Civic's dented hood. We'll tell her properly, she murmured, catching Miss J's chin. The leftover glitter on her fingertips caught in Miss J's stubble, tiny constellations against her jaw. With flowers. And she hesitated, watching a moth batter itself against the sodium light. "Those almond cookies you said she baked." Miss J's breath hitched. Her thumb stilled on Jennifer's hip bone. The sequins of her dress dug into Jennifer's palm, sharp as teeth. "Fuck," she whispered, voice cracking. The raccoon by the dumpster froze mid-rummage, beady eyes reflecting orange. Then Miss J kissed her, hard, desperate, her fingers tangling in Jennifer's hair like she was anchoring herself to the earth. The parking lot lights hummed. 6 weeks later, Jennifer learned 3 things. Logging camp shower stalls had no curtains, Miss J's father whistled while sharpening his axe at dawn, and stolen flannel smelled like pine resin and betrayal. She'd been mid-rinse when the first metallic screech split the air, a sound like nails dragged down the chalkboard of the universe. The water shut off. Jennifer blinked soap from her eyes just as the stall door creaked open. "Morning, Roomy," drawled a voice deeper than a well. Miss J's dad leaned against the doorframe, whetstone in one hand, axe in the other. His grin split his beard like a hatchet through kindling. Jennifer froze. The water dripped. Somewhere beyond the plywood walls, Miss J shouted, "Jesus Christ, Dad!" The axe whistled as he spun it, a lazy, practiced flick, before tossing it into a stump outside. "Almond cookies in the mess hall," he said, eyeing Jennifer's death grip on the shower nozzle. "Made 'em myself." He strolled out, whistling. Miss J barreled in, wearing nothing but lace and sawdust. "Fuck sake," she hissed, slamming the stall door. Jennifer exhaled, her fingers trembling against the nozzle. Miss J's hands were rough on her waist, pulling her close. "You okay?" Her lips brushed Jennifer's shoulder, chapped, familiar. The scent of pine resin clung to her skin. Jennifer laughed, shaky. "Your dad grinned at my," she gestured vaguely at her soap-slick body. Miss J's thumb traced her hip bone, smearing sawdust and steam. "Don't worry," Miss J murmured, pressing her forehead to Jennifer's. "My dad whistles at everyone naked." Her teeth grazed Jennifer's earlobe. "Daily ritual. Says it's morning affirmations." Jennifer choked on a laugh, her fingers tightening in Miss J's tangled hair. The shower stall's plywood walls vibrated with every thump of the generator outside. Sawdust clung to the damp skin between them, gritty under her palms. He grinned, she hissed. Miss J's breath hitched, not from arousal, but the suppressed laughter shaking her shoulders. "Like a fucking bear." Miss J nipped her collarbone. "Daily ritual," she murmured, her lips dragging wet trails up Jennifer's throat. The lace of her panties scratched Jennifer's thigh, the fabric already soaked from the shower spray. "Whistles at everyone naked before breakfast. Calls it morning affirmations." Her teeth grazed Jennifer's earlobe. "Last summer, he did it to the bishop during church retreat week." Jennifer stiffened. The shower stall's plywood walls vibrated with each thud of the generator outside. Sawdust clung to Miss J's shoulders like freckles, gritty under her palms. "That's not," she started, but Miss J kissed her quiet, her tongue hot and insistent. The axe screeched again outside, followed by her father's off-key rendition of Sweet Caroline. "Don't worry," Miss J murmured against her lips, her hand sliding down Jennifer's soap-slick back. "My dad's got the emotional range of a chainsaw." She nipped Jennifer's lower lip, tasting of pine and last night's stolen whiskey. "Every damn day here," she added, voice dropping as her fingers dug into Jennifer's hips, "he whistles at the newbies. Calls it morale building." Jennifer exhaled sharply, her fingers tightening in Miss J's tangled hair. The shower stall's plywood walls vibrated with each thud of the generator outside. Sawdust clung to their damp skin like second shadows. He grinned, she hissed again, pressing closer until their bodies stuck together with sweat and steam. Miss J's laughter vibrated against her throat, warm, familiar, edged with something darker. Later, while Miss J split logs shirtless but wore a bra in the July heat, Jennifer knelt in their bunkhouse scrubbing pine tar from her jeans. The floorboard groaned under her knee. A splinter snagged her nail, then the plank lifted with a screech of protest, revealing a hollow space choked with dust. Inside lay a composition notebook, its blue cover warped by humidity. Jennifer's breath caught. The first page screamed property of Miss J.J. in bubbly sixth-grade letters. The sketches hit like a gut punch, a woman with Miss J's wild curls but softer edges, kneeling beside a gap-toothed kid in overalls. They stood knee-deep in a creek, the graphite water swirling around their legs. Jenffer traced the smudged caption, "Me and Mom, Black Creek," before the next page showed them again, this time the woman's hands guiding smaller ones around an axe handle, her smile lopsided like Miss J's when she was tipsy. Jennifer's thumb brushed a coffee stain that bled into the margin, where someone had scribbled. Her hand smelled like almond cookies in messy script. The journal creaked when she turned another page. Sawdust drifted from the binding. Here, the sketches grew frantic, a car with its front end accordioned against a pine tree, the windshield webbed with cracks. No bodies. Just a single sentence at the bottom, "Dad didn't cry until he found her boots." Jennifer's breath caught. Underneath, pressed between the pages, was a brittle wildflower stem, the petals long crumbled to dust. Footsteps thudded on the bunkhouse porch. Jenffer barely had time to shove the notebook back before Miss J kicked the door open, axe balanced on one shoulder. Sweat gleamed on her collarbones. "Stealing my shit already?" she drawled, but her smirk faltered when she saw Jennifer's face. The axe thudded to the floor. "Oh." Jenffer held up a sketch, Miss J at 7, grinning in pigtails, her mother's hands guiding hers around a fishing rod. The graphite had smudged where the page was thumbed raw. "You never drew her face after the crash," she whispered. Miss J snatched the journal, her calloused fingers leaving sawdust streaks on the cover. "Because I forgot how it looked." She flipped to a dog-eared page, a half-finished portrait where the woman's features dissolved into frantic scribbles. "Dad burned all the photos. Said they mocked him by staying still." Her thumb dug into the paper. Like she chose to stop breathing. Jenffer reached for her, but Miss J pivoted toward the bunkhouse window, where afternoon light sliced through moth-eaten curtains. The camp generator sputtered outside, drowning in cicada screams. "Her hands," Miss J said suddenly, voice cracking. "They were." She mimed kneading dough, the journal slipping from her grip. A loose page fluttered out, a sketch of two hands clasped around an axe handle, one large and scarred, the other small and ink-stained. The caption read, "Dad teaching me, but Mom's hands were here first." Jennifer's throat tightened. She remembered Miss J flinching last week when her father clapped her shoulder, how she'd muttered wrong calluses into her coffee. Now she understood, the old man's palms bore logging scars where his wife's had flower ghosts. The journal's spine cracked as Miss J flipped to another page, a grocery list in looping cursive, asterisk almond extract, dental floss, new whetstone asterisk, beside a crude self-portrait of the kid with tears like exclamation points. Underneath, "Dad says crying dulls the blade." Miss J's boot scuffed the floorboards. "Found it after the shower incident." She nodded at the hollow beneath the lifted plank, where dust motes swam in slatted light. "Turns out Dad wasn't just hiding whiskey." Her thumb lingered on a sketch of her mother straddling a felled pine, overalls streaked with sap. The graphite had shaded her biceps with the same ropey muscle Miss J now used to split oak before breakfast. Jenffer crouched beside her, the journal's pages whispering secrets against her knees. A loose leaf slipped out, a grocery list in that same looping cursive, asterisk vanilla beans, Band-Aids, new whetstone asterisk, beside a crude self-portrait of the kid with tears like exclamation points. Underneath, "Dad says crying dulls the blade." Jennifer's fingers hovered over the words. The ink had bled, as if water had fallen here too. Miss J snatched the page, crumpling it into her fist. "Found it after the shower incident," she muttered, nodding at the hollow beneath the floorboard where dust motes swam in the slatted light. "Turns out Dad wasn't just hiding whiskey." Her thumb lingered on another sketch, her mother straddling a felled pine, overalls streaked with sap. The graphite had shaded her biceps with the same ropey muscle Miss J now used to split oak before breakfast. Jenffer traced a smudged corner where the paper had been thumbed raw. The sketches told a story the photos couldn't. Miss J at 6, her tiny hands dwarfed by her mother's as they jointed a rabbit together, asterisk mom says the knife's an extension of your arm asterisk. Miss J at 8, braiding her mother's wild curls while the woman sharpened hatchets, asterisk you got my hair, kid, but your dad's stubborn hands asterisk. The pages smelled like pine resin and something sweet, vanilla extract, maybe, or the ghost of almond cookies. A floorboard groaned. Jenffer barely had time to shove the journal aside before Miss J's shadow fell across the bunkhouse floor. Sawdust clung to her boots like snow. Found my skeletons, huh? She kicked the door shut with her heel, her flannel sleeves rolled past ink-stained forearms. The sketchbook lay between them like a live wire. Jenffer watched Miss J's fingers twitch, not toward the axe leaning against the wall, but to the page showing her mother's hands guiding hers around a fishing rod. The graphite had blurred where the creek water got them wet. Outside, the generator coughed. Miss J's father whistled, 2 sharp notes, then Sweet Caroline. Jenffer pressed her palm to the sketch of the gap-toothed kid in overalls. You look just like her, she said softly. The paper smelled like pine sap and something sweet, almost like almond extract, Miss J muttered, crouching. She flipped to a dog-eared page where her mother's face dissolved into scribbles. Mom kept it in her apron pocket. Dad threw them all out after the crash. Her thumb dug into the margin where she'd written her hands smelled like cookies and chain oil. Jenffer touched the edge of another sketch, Miss J at 9, her tiny fists white-knuckled around an axe handle while her mother's ghost hands hovered just above hers. The caption read Dad says grip it like you mean it but Mom said feel the wood first. A coffee stain bled into the margin, obscuring the rest. Jennifer's throat tightened. You still do that, she whispered. Before every swing. You pause. Miss J exhaled sharply through her nose. Outside, the generator sputtered like a dying animal. Her father's boots crunched gravel near the woodpile. Yeah, she muttered, flipping to a page where her mother's face was half erased, replaced by frantic scribbles. She'd press her palm to the bark first. Said trees dream too. A splinter of sunlight cut across her cheekbone, catching the sweat there. Dad calls it dawdling. Jenffer traced the graphite smudges, the ghost of a woman's hand hovering over a felled pine. Her thumb found a coffee stain shaped like Thunder Bay. We could tell him today, she said suddenly. The words tasted like stolen whiskey and the cinnamon gum Miss J always chewed. About us. Like, she gestured vaguely at the journal, the bunkhouse, the axe leaning against the wall. Asterisk married asterisk married. Miss J barked a laugh, half hysterical, half choked. Her boot scuffed the floorboard where the journal had lain hidden. Dad'll ask why we ain't wearing orange, she muttered, but her fingers trembled as she flipped to a fresh page. The pencil hovered, then sketched 2 stick figures holding hands under a lopsided church. Jennifer's breath caught. The taller one had Miss J's wild curls, the shorter wore a triangle dress. Below, in shaky cursive, asterisk Tom and Ed got hitched last week. Look at 'em now, happy as 2 gay loggers in flannel asterisk. The screen door banged open. Miss J's dad stood silhouetted against the noon sun, whetstone in one hand, axe in the other. His gaze dropped to the sketchbook. That Ed's kid, he grunted, squinting at Jennifer's stick-figure dress. Sawdust clung to his beard like frost. Miss J's pencil snapped. Jennifer's pulse hammered against her ribs. She watched Miss J's thumb smear the graphite where their stick-figure hands touched, asterisk happy as 2 gay loggers. In flannel star. The words blurred under her sweat-slick palm, just that funny song about gay lumberjacks that were mon bras. Miss J's dad spat into the dust, his whetstone screeching against the axe blade. Ed's kid, he repeated, squinting at the sketch. His beard twitched. Jenffer braced for the axe to split the journal, or her skull, but he just scratched his belly through his oil-stained flannel. Tom and Ed got hitched last week. He jerked his chin toward the mess hall. They're fryin' walleye for the newlyweds tonight. Miss J's pencil hovered over the stick-figure church. Jenffer watched her throat move as she swallowed, once, twice, before sketching a lopsided heart around the 2 loggers. The graphite smudged where her thumb trembled. So, Miss J croaked, you know Tom and Ed? Her dad interrupted, flipping the axe onto his shoulder. The blade flashed sunlight into Jennifer's eyes. Hell, kid, half the camp's queer as a $3 bill. He spat into the dust. Y'ain't he special? Miss J's pencil froze mid-heart. Jennifer watched realization crack across her face like a splitting log, the way her shoulders slumped, then straightened, then slumped again. Her father whistled through his teeth, sharp and sudden, before tossing the whetstone at her feet. Dinner's at 6, he grunted. Ed's bringin' his famous pickled beets. The screen door slammed behind him, rattling the bunkhouse windows. Jennifer exhaled. The graphite smeared under her thumb where Miss J had drawn their stick figure hands entwined. Outside, the generator sputtered to life, drowning the silence with its metallic scream. Miss J's boot scuffed the floorboards. Tom and Ed, she muttered. Fucking Tom and Ed. Her laugh hitched, half disbelief, half relief, as she flipped to a fresh page. The pencil moved feverishly now, 2 women in flannel, one with wild curls, the other in a triangle dress, standing before a lumberjack congregation. The caption bled graphite, look at us now. The screen door groaned. Miss J's dad leaned against the frame, his whetstone screeching against the axe blade. Walleye's gettin' cold, he grunted. His gaze dropped to the sketch, the flannel-clad brides, the lopsided heart. Jennifer braced for impact, but he just scratched his beard. Ed's bringin' his famous pickled beets, he added, like an afterthought. Like of course. Miss J's pencil snapped. Jennifer watched her throat bob, once, twice, before she blurted, Dad. Her boot scuffed the floorboard. Like Tom and Ed. The whetstone stopped mid-screech. Her father's beard twitched. Huh, he grunted, flipping the axe onto his shoulder. The blade flashed sunlight across Jennifer's face. Walleye's at 6. He spat into the dust and strode toward the mess hall, whistling Here Comes the Bride off key. Miss J's pencil hovered over the sketch, 2 flannel-clad stick figures now holding a fish instead of rings. Jennifer watched her throat move, the sweat glistening where her pulse jumped. That's it, she whispered. Somewhere beyond the bunkhouse, an engine backfired. Miss J flipped the journal shut with a thump. Yep. She grinned, but it was the kind that came before a chainsaw kickback, all teeth, no joy. Tom and Ed got hitched over a walleye fry. We're getting married via pickled beets. Her boot scuffed the floorboard where her father's spit still darkened the dust. Jennifer touched the graphite smudge of their stick figure hands. Your dad whistled Here Comes the Bride, she said slowly. The generator outside coughed like it was laughing. Miss J flipped to a fresh page. The pencil hovered, then sketched 2 crude fish with wedding rings in their mouths. Tom and Ed got walleye, she muttered, we get pickled fucking beets. The graphite snapped under her grip. Jennifer watched her throat work, once, twice, before Miss J suddenly stood, the journal tumbling to the floorboards. She grabbed Jennifer's wrist and dragged her toward the screen door where afternoon light bled through the mesh like cheap watercolor. Dad, she barked, voice cracking like kindling. The whetstone screech from the porch stopped mid-scrape. Miss J's father looked up, axe balanced across his knees, beard flecked with sawdust. His gaze slid from their clasped hands to Jennifer's grass-stained knees where she'd knelt over the journal. Walleye's at 6, he repeated, like they hadn't just appended his universe with graphite and spit. Jennifer felt Miss J's pulse hammering against her palm, wild, like the time she'd pressed her ear to a felled pine and sworn she heard its heartbeat. Dad, Miss J said again, louder now, her voice roughened by 2 decades of swallowed words. I'm gay. And I'm gonna marry this one. She jerked her chin at Jennifer, whose face burned hotter than the camp forge. Her father blinked. A woodpecker drilled into silence overhead. Then he shrugged, spat a sunflower seed husk into the dirt, and said, figured. The whetstone resumed its metallic kiss along the axe blade. You gonna help Ed with them beets or just stand there looking constipated? Miss J's grip on Jennifer's wrist went slack. The camp generator chose that moment to die with a final, pathetic wheeze. Somewhere beyond the pines, a chainsaw stuttered into life, Tom or Ed, probably, cutting fresh lumber for the newlyweds' outhouse. Jenffer watched Miss J's Adam's apple bob like a hooked fish. "You," she croaked. "Since when?" Her father shrugged, rolling a sunflower seed between his teeth. "Since you was 12 and punched Billy Cobb for callin' that Anderson boy a pansy." The whetstone screeched against steel. "Then you stole Billy's overalls and wore 'em for a month like a damn trophy." Miss J's grip tightened around Jennifer's wrist. Sawdust drifted from her boot where it scuffed the porch step. "That was 19 years ago," her father interrupted, flipping the axe onto his shoulder. The blade gleamed dully in the afternoon light. "You wore them overalls till the knees blew out. Had to sew 'em up with fishing line." He spat another seed husk into the dirt, eyeing Jenffer with a squint that made her pulse stutter. "This one sews?" Miss J's fingers twitched against Jennifer's wrist, calloused and warm, still smelling of pine tar and graphite. "She burns water," Miss J muttered, but her voice cracked on the last word. The journal lay forgotten on the bunkhouse floor, its pages fluttering in the breeze like the wings of a startled bird. Her father spat another seed husk into the dirt, his beard shifting as he chewed. The whetstone hung limp in his hand, the axe balanced across his knees like a sleeping beast. "Figured," he repeated, quieter this time. His gaze flicked to Jennifer's grass-stained knees, then away, as if the sight of her kneeling over his daughter's childhood sketches had answered questions he'd never asked aloud. The woodpecker drilled again, a staccato rhythm that matched Jennifer's rabbit-quick pulse. Miss J's fingers twitched against Jennifer's wrist, too tight, then too loose, like she couldn't decide whether to bolt or break something. Her father exhaled through his nose, long and slow, the way Miss J did before swinging an axe. "Jenffer," he said, testing the name like a green log. The F sound came out sharp, sawdust dry. Jenffer opened her mouth to correct him, but Miss J dug her nails in, don't asterisk, as her father stood, his overalls creaking at the knees. The axe blade flashed when he turned it, not toward them, but to catch the sunset in its curve. "You'll need a whetstone," he said abruptly, tossing the one from his pocket. Miss J caught it midair, her calluses scraping against the oiled surface. "For the wedding," he clarified, jerking his chin at Jenffer. "She'll dull your edge." His beard twitched. "Like your mother did mine." Miss J's fingers clenched around the stone. Jenffer watched her knuckles bleach white, the same way they had around the axe handle that morning, when she'd paused to press her palm to the bark first. "Dad," she croaked, but the old man was already stomping toward the mess hall, whistling Danny Boy off key. The screen door banged behind him, rattling the eaves where a wasp nest hung like a rotten peach. Jenffer touched the raw skin of Miss J's wrist where her pulse fluttered. The journal lay splayed open at their feet, the page showing two stick figures holding fish instead of rings, the graphite smudged by sweat. "Your dad," she whispered, "just gave us a whetstone as a wedding gift." Somewhere beyond the pines, a chainsaw sputtered into silence. Miss J exhaled hard through her nose, the way she did before splitting oak. "Yeah," she muttered, thumbing the stone's oiled surface. Her father's boot prints led toward the mess hall, each depression deeper than the last, as if he'd been carrying more than just an axe. 19 years, she repeated, voice cracking like green wood. "He knew since I was 12 and stole Billy Cobb's overalls." Jenffer watched the whetstone catch the dying light, the same way Miss J's eyes did when she talked about her mother's almond cookies. The journal lay open between them, its pages fluttering in the breeze like the wings of a startled bird. Miss J's thumb brushed the sketch of their stick-figure wedding, two fish with rings in their mouths, now smudged with pine tar and sweat. "Tom and Ed got walleye," she muttered, suddenly hoarse. "We get a fucking whetstone." Her father's boot prints led toward the mess hall, each depression deeper than the last. Jenffer pressed her palm to the graphite smudge where Miss J had drawn, their hands entwined, rough lines overlapping, blurred by the same careless thumb that now traced the whetstone's edge. "He knew," Miss J said again, voice cracking like kindling. "Since I punched Billy Cobb and stole his goddamn overalls." Jennifer's laugh hitched, half hysterical. half relief, as she pressed her forehead to Miss J's shoulder. The flannel smelled like pine resin and the ghost of almond extract. "So when you said yes, Dad, I am gay and I am going to marry Jenffer here." "Shut up," Miss J growled, but her fingers curled tighter around Jennifer's wrist. The whetstone dug into both their palms, its edge sharp enough to draw blood if either moved wrong. The journal lay abandoned at their feet, its pages fluttering open to reveal the sketch of Miss J's mother, overalls streaked with sap, hands guiding a smaller version of herself around an axe handle. From the mess hall, Ed's unmistakable cackle cut through the evening air, followed by the clatter of pickled beet jars hitting a table. Miss J's father bellowed something about newlywed walleye, his voice ricocheting off the pines. Jennifer pressed her forehead harder into Miss J's shoulder, inhaling the scent of sweat and graphite. "Your dad," she whistled "Here comes the bride" with a mouthful of sunflower seeds. Miss J's grip on the whetstone tightened. The journal's pages flapped in the breeze, a childhood sketch of her mother's hands guiding hers around a fishing rod now smeared with Jennifer's thumbprint. 19 years, she repeated hoarsely. The word hitched in her throat like a snagged fishing line. Jennifer pressed closer, her forehead still buried in Miss J's shoulder. The flannel smelled like pine tar and something sweet, vanilla extract, maybe, or the ghost of those almond cookies her mother used to bake. Miss J's fingers trembled around the whetstone, her father's boot prints still fresh in the dirt. Dawn came with a chorus of chainsaws and the scent of freshly cut pine. Jennifer stirred to the rhythmic scritch-scritch of steel against stone. Miss J knelt by the bunkhouse steps, Jennifer's axe balanced across her knees, her calloused fingers moving with the same careful precision as the sketches in the journal, palm pressed to the blade first, feel the steel, then the whetstone's bite. The lullaby was so soft Jennifer almost missed it, a tuneless hum vibrating through Miss J's clenched teeth as she worked. The melody curled like wood smoke between the scritch-scritch pauses, the same one Jennifer had seen scribbled in the journal's margins, Mom's song for splitting cedar, key of B-flat, smells like almond extract. Miss J's thumb brushed the axe edge absently, her humming stuttering when the blade caught the sunrise just right. Outside, gravel crunched, then silence. Jennifer peered through the bunkhouse window's grime to see Miss J's father standing statue still, his whetstone glinting where it had fallen into the dew. His beard was half-shaved, the other side still lathered, razor forgotten in his left hand. The lullaby seemed to hook into his ribs, his chest hitched like he'd taken a saw kickback to the sternum.